March 1st feels like standing in a room where the walls are still intact, but the foundation has quietly shifted beneath your feet. Something is dissolving, but it is not loud. It is subtle, structural, internal. Saturn and Neptune are nearly fused together in early Aries, less than a degree apart, and when discipline meets dissolution in the sign of identity, the question becomes simple but uncomfortable. Who are you without the story you've been telling yourself? Psychologically, this transit creates a strange dual pressure. On one side, Saturn demands accountability. It asks for maturity, responsibility, structure, proof. On the other side, Neptune erodes certainty. It blurs edges, it softens boundaries, it dissolves definitions. Together, they create cognitive dissonance. You may feel called to take control of your life while simultaneously questioning whether you even know what control means anymore. Aries amplifies this because Aries is raw identity. It is instinct. It is the first spark of I am. So this conjunction is not abstract, it is personal. It can show up as fatigue around roles you've been performing, disillusionment with authority figures, a quiet realization that some ambition you've been chasing was built on illusion rather than authentic desire. There may also be a subtle grief today, not dramatic grief, but the grief of outgrowing an identity, the grief of realizing that a structure you relied on, internally or externally, is no longer spiritually aligned. The psychological tension comes from Saturn wanting to rebuild immediately, while Neptune wants to dissolve completely. One part of you wants clarity, another part wants escape, one part wants a plan, another part wants to surrender. The work today is not to force certainty, it is to observe where you feel disillusioned without immediately reacting. Disillusionment is not failure, it is clarity removing its costume. You may notice projection dynamics intensifying. When Saturn and Neptune merge, we can project authority onto fantasies or project fantasy onto authority. We might idealize leaders or suddenly lose faith in them. We might question our own competence. We might feel unsure about the future. Instead of asking, "What should I do today?" the better psychological question is, what illusion is dissolving and what truth is trying to take its place? This is not chaos, it is restructuring at the identity level, quiet, subtle, foundational. When outer planets move this close together, the atmosphere changes. These are not daily mood swings. These are tectonic plates shifting under collective psychology. Saturn and Neptune meeting in Aries is not just about structure dissolving. It is about the collapse of false identity structures. Saturn represents the rules we internalized, the authority figures that shaped us, the boundaries we built to feel safe. Neptune represents the dreams we chased, the ideals we absorbed, the fantasies we leaned on when reality felt too sharp. When they merge, illusions about strength begin to thin out. Aries energy is direct, instinctual, primal. It wants to act, it wants to assert. But Saturn slows that impulse and asks, "Is this truly you?" Neptune then whispers, "Or is this a role you learned to survive?" Psychologically, this can manifest as questioning long-held motivations. Why did I choose this career? Why do I respond defensively in certain situations? Why do I need to be seen a particular way? Aries rules the ego boundary, the sense of I exist. And with Neptune dissolving and Saturn scrutinizing, the ego feels exposed. There can be a subtle identity fatigue today, not burnout from work, but exhaustion from maintaining an outdated self-concept. And then there is Chiron conjunct Eris, also in Aries. This intensifies the theme. Chiron represents the wound that never fully disappears. Eris represents disruption, discord, the outsider archetype. Together in Aries, they expose wounds around self-assertion, around being overlooked, around not feeling seen for who you are. This combination can trigger irritation, but irritation is often unprocessed pain trying to protect itself. If you notice disproportionate reactions today, especially around independence or recognition, pause. Ask what wound is being touched. Collectively, this alignment can bring tension around leadership, authority, or identity politics. Personally, it brings attention to where you have compromised your authentic self to maintain stability. Saturn wants integrity, Neptune wants transcendence, Chiron wants healing, Aries wants disruption. So the deeper question becomes this: what part of your identity was built for survival, and what part is ready to be rebuilt for truth? This is not about dramatic action today. Aries normally wants immediate movement, but with Saturn and Neptune involved, the real work is internal restructuring, clarifying your motivations, recognizing where you've idealized something that no longer holds weight, accepting that disillusionment is a stage of maturity. When illusion dissolves, the first feeling is uncertainty. The second feeling, if you stay with it, is freedom.
On a practical level, March 1st may not look dramatic. It may look like hesitation, like second-guessing, like pausing before reacting in ways you normally would not question. Even without major inner-planet fireworks today, the Sun and personal planets moving through Pisces are absorbing the pressure from Saturn and Neptune in Aries. That creates a strange blend of sensitivity and self-examination. You may feel more porous than usual, more reflective, less certain about immediate impulses. Pisces energy tends to blur boundaries emotionally. Aries wants sharp boundaries. So internally, there can be a push and pull between wanting to assert yourself and wanting to retreat. You might start to say something bold, then reconsider. You might feel a surge of motivation, then wonder whether it is coming from ego or insecurity. This is a day where projection becomes easy. If you feel uncertain about your own direction, you may unconsciously look to someone else to embody clarity. Or you may resent someone who appears certain. Notice that dynamic. It is revealing. Conversations today can carry undertones of identity. Even small exchanges may feel loaded. If someone challenges your opinion, it might feel like they are challenging who you are. That sensitivity is not weakness, it is awareness rising to the surface. Practically, this is not a day to make impulsive identity decisions. Not a day to quit something out of frustration or declare a new life path in a moment of emotional clarity. Instead, observe, journal, pay attention to moments where you feel either disillusioned or defensive. Fatigue may also show up. Saturn can feel heavy. Neptune can feel draining. Together, they create a kind of psychological fog where productivity dips but insight increases. If you are slower today, that is not regression, it is integration. Relationships may feel subtly reflective. You might notice where you have been overextending to maintain harmony, or where you have been withholding your true perspective to avoid conflict. Aries wants honesty, Pisces wants peace. Today is about finding the balance between the two. The most practical advice for March 1st is simple. Slow your reactions. Question your motivations gently, and if something feels like it is dissolving, do not rush to replace it. Some identities are meant to expire.
Now let's bring this down to you, sign by sign, but in a way that feels human, not mechanical. If you're an Aries, this is personal. You may feel like something about your identity is quietly dissolving, and that can be unsettling because you rely on clarity of self to move forward. Growth for you right now is not about pushing harder. It is about asking whether the version of you that has been driving your decisions is still authentic. Where have you been performing strength instead of feeling secure in it? Let parts of yourself evolve without interpreting that evolution as weakness. If you're a Taurus, this energy stirs places inside you that you do not always like to visit. Old fears, old emotional patterns, subtle anxieties that you normally stabilize through routine may start surfacing. Growth for you is about allowing internal movement without rushing to ground it immediately. You do not need to solve every emotional wave. Some of them are simply clearing space. If you're a Gemini, your social world may feel slightly unstable. You could find yourself questioning friendships, networks, or even how you present yourself publicly. Have you been adapting so fluidly to others that you lost clarity about your own position? Growth now is about defining yourself without needing constant reflection from your environment. If you're a Cancer, this transit touches your sense of responsibility and direction. You may feel disillusioned with a role you've been playing, especially if it was built around pleasing others or maintaining stability. Growth for you involves separating your authentic ambition from inherited expectations. You are allowed to outgrow a path without labeling it failure. If you're a Leo, your beliefs are evolving. Something you once felt passionate about may now feel incomplete or overly simplistic. Growth for you is about embracing complexity. You do not need to cling to old philosophies to remain consistent. Expansion sometimes requires intellectual humility. If you're a Virgo, deeper psychological patterns are being highlighted. Control, precision, and planning may feel less effective than usual. That can create anxiety. Growth for you is about tolerating ambiguity without immediately trying to fix it. Trust does not mean abandoning discernment. It means recognizing that not everything uncertain is dangerous. If you're a Libra, relationships are acting like mirrors. You may notice where you have idealized someone or projected authority onto them. Growth now is about reclaiming your center. Harmony does not require self-abandonment. Balance begins when you stop negotiating your own truth. If you're a Scorpio, your routines and work structures may feel subtly misaligned. You might sense that you have been operating from habit rather than intention. Growth for you involves examining why you maintain certain systems. Are they empowering you or are they simply familiar? Awareness is the first stage of transformation. If you're a Sagittarius, your sense of joy and inspiration is being refined. You may question whether something you once found exciting still resonates. Growth for you is about rediscovering desire without inflating it. Not every spark needs to become a wildfire. Some passions are meant to be integrated quietly. If you're a Capricorn, foundational themes are surfacing. Family patterns, childhood conditioning, or internalized authority structures may feel closer than usual. Growth for you is about redefining strength. Endurance has served you well, but softness is not a threat to your power. It can actually deepen it. If you're an Aquarius, your communication style is evolving. You may feel tension between speaking directly and maintaining connection. Growth now is about precision. You do not need to shock people to be authentic, and you do not need to dilute yourself to be accepted. Clarity can be both firm and thoughtful. And if you're a Pisces, your sense of value and self-worth is under quiet review. You may notice where you have overextended compassion or blurred your own boundaries. Growth for you is about grounding your worth in something tangible. Sensitivity is a gift, but it needs structure to remain healthy.
As we close out March 1st, I want you to sit with something simple but uncomfortable. Disillusionment is not betrayal, it is maturation. When Saturn and Neptune stand this close together in Aries, they are not trying to confuse you. They are trying to strip away what was built on fantasy so that what remains is real. And reality is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is just the quiet awareness that a role no longer fits, a goal no longer excites you, a belief no longer holds weight. The psychological temptation today is to react, to rebuild immediately, to grab onto a new identity so you do not have to feel the space left behind by the old one. But growth rarely happens in reaction, it happens in reflection. Notice where you feel slightly unanchored. Notice where you feel defensive. Notice where you feel disappointed. Those are not random moods. They are signals pointing toward areas where illusion and structure were intertwined. Ask yourself gently, without judgment, where have I been seeking certainty because I was afraid of ambiguity? Where have I confused responsibility with rigidity? Where have I confused surrender with avoidance? Aries energy wants to move fast.
It wants to declare who it is and move forward. But with Saturn and Neptune involved, this is not about speed. It is about integrity. If something is dissolving in your life right now, let it dissolve with awareness. You do not need to fix everything today. You do not need to define yourself today. You only need to notice what feels authentic and what feels inherited. Because when illusion fades, what remains is not emptiness. It is clarity waiting for you to claim it.